So I want to ask you this. You have the, Chuck Smith and then the first gen Calvary guys, the Raw Reeses, the Don McClures, all that. What would you say we are? Are we like second gen, third gen?
We're third gen, yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to me in this conversation to get the perspective on all this from a third gen point of view, because a lot of times you hear from the first round guys, like the guys I just mentioned, and they had to take, because they were there, that it was during the 70s, the Jesus Revolution that just came out. They kind of went through all that stuff. Now we're transitioning into the culture of a different time, and you have second, third, fourth generation Calvary people going through the denomination. So it'll be interesting to go through that. So first question here is, what is next question. What is Calvary Chapel, and explain the denomination in a nutshell? So very quickly, how would you characterize Calvary Chapel as a denomination?
Well, first of all, it's not a denomination. We're non-denominational, and when you're talking about denomination, you're talking about a central head, basically, or central organization. And so with the Baptist, there's, depending on what vein of Baptist you are, there's a Baptist organization that presides over all those Baptist churches, and that's the same for Protestants, same for a lot of Catholics even have that, obviously with the Vatican, the Pope, but you have all these different styles of leadership and methodologies and all these things. And when you're talking about Calvary Chapel, the reason that we're kind of unique is because these things are, in a sense, we're all autonomous, and not, we are all doing our own thing. There's really just a fellowship of churches. We get together, we worship, we have similar styles, we do conferences together, but we're essentially autonomous, and that we're not accountable for anyone else's ministry. We're all accountable for our own ministry. We don't get funding from any other Calvary Chapel or from some central Calvary Chapel organization. We are all just in that same boat that we're doing what God has called us to do, and we get a fellowship with like-minded churches. But ultimately, again, we're not a denomination. That's kind of, and this isn't unique. There's tons of churches out there, they would call themselves non-denominational nowadays. It was unique in the beginning. When Calvary Chapel was first born, it was not a common thing. Most people went to a denominational church, and again, what happens is you're on your own. I think there's a lot more, less business and more faith involved, just because you're not going from church to church. We're not hiring always from without. We're hiring a lot of times from within. And so there's just kind of, in a nutshell, what I would say is description of what Calvary Chapel is.
So I totally get what you're saying, and there's this thing with non-denominational is a denomination in that sense. And so you have, I know there's this kind of a smorgasbord of non-denominational. It can be all over the place, but Calvary Chapel being non-denominational still, because of like what we're going to talk about, is a domination, or I don't know how to characterize it technically in that sense, but defining it, there are things that make Calvary Chapel what it is.